All right, so we're diving deep today.
Deep.
Into some interesting waters.
Indeed.
U.S.-Ukraine relations and how all of this is impacting Europe's security landscape.
Mm-hmm.
What makes this deep dive extra interesting, though, is our source material.
Oh, right.
It's a Korean news source.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so we're going to be getting a non-Western perspective on this whole situation.
A fresh set of eyes.
Exactly. And I think, there are going to be some surprising takes. Let's be real. Things are tense right now.
Oh, absolutely.
That recent U.S.-Ukraine presidential summit, it was a mess.
It was a disaster.
Yeah, accusations flying, agreements canceled.
Right.
And it seems like the two countries, they're just further apart than ever on how to end this war.
Yeah, there were definitely some tensions brewing before the summit.
Absolutely.
The U.S. and Ukraine haven't exactly seen eye to eye on the best strategies for dealing with Russia.
Right.
But yeah, this summit really just kind of brought everything. It blew up, brought everything to the forefront.
And there was one thing that really jumped out at me in our source, this quote from a White House official.
Oh, yeah.
And he kind of hinted that the U.S. might be looking for a new Ukrainian leader.
Oh, wow.
Someone who's maybe a little more open to negotiating with Russia. That's a bold statement, isn't it?
It is. What kind of impact do you think that could have?
Oh, man. Just imagine the impact on morale in Ukraine if they feel like their most powerful allies, maybe we need a new guy.
Yeah, they're losing faith in their leadership, yeah.
It could also embolden Russia, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, they're not even unified. We don't even need to try to negotiate.
They might be less likely to negotiate in good faith, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then our Korean source brings up another point about Zelensky.
Okay.
His personal motives.
Oh, interesting.
They suggest that maybe his reasons for continuing this war go beyond just defending Ukraine.
That's a bit of a minefield, isn't it? What are they suggesting?
It's impossible to know what's truly going on in someone's head.
Right.
But they suggest maybe he's concerned about keeping his political power or cementing his legacy as a wartime leader.
Right. So internal political factors could be influencing his decisions.
Yeah. So it's just another layer of complexity on top of this.
Layers on layers.
Exactly.
Complicated situation.
And speaking of complicated,
okay,
while all this was going down, while the U.S. and Ukraine were having this very public disagreement, the rest of Europe was making some moves.
Oh, really? What were they up to?
So European and Canadian leaders, they held their own meeting.
Interesting.
Pointedly excluding the U.S.
Wow.
And they're talking about boosting Ukrainian and European security. Now, this wasn't just some symbolic gesture.
Right.
They came out of that meeting with some plans.
Oh, okay. So what did they decide?
Well, that's what I want to know, right?
Yeah.
Was this just a story of solidarity, or are we talking about something more substantial?
Yeah.
Give me the details.
Well, they talked about increasing defense spending.
Okay.
Sending more military aid to Ukraine.
Okay.
And even developing a post-war security framework for Ukraine.
So they're not messing around.
No, they're not. These are real commitments.
Yeah. It's like they're forming their own coalition of the willing.
Right.
Ready to support Ukraine.
Yeah.
Even if the U.S. steps back.
Potentially.
What does that say about the future of European security?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
About their relationship with the U.S.
Yeah. Are we looking at the start of a more independent Europe?
It's certainly a possibility. If Europe can present this united front,
right?
If they can actually, demonstrate that they're willing to invest in their own defense,
right?
It could be a shift. Yeah. A big shift in the transatlantic relationship.
And what does that mean for everyday Europeans?
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
Increased defense spending. That's going to require some significant investments.
Right.
And those investments, they're going to have to come from somewhere.
Ouch.
So we could be talking about higher taxes.
Oh, yeah.
Cuts in spending in other areas.
Right.
It's going to have an impact on economies.
Yeah, so this could affect, my investments?
Potential.
Prices of everyday things?
Could be.
Okay, so this is getting real.
Yeah, it's not just theoretical anymore.
This is hitting home?
It's getting real.
And so then the question becomes, does this potential shift in power, does it actually embolden Russia? Yeah. They're watching this all unfold, and they're thinking...
Opportunity.
Yeah.
That's a valid concern.
Right.
It's possible, but it's also possible that a more united Europe, a more assertive Europe, could deter Russia.
Okay, so it's a delicate balance.
Very delicate.
And then there's Ukraine, stuck in the middle, trying to defend themselves while all these alliances are shifting around them.
It's a tough position to be in.
What does our Korean source have to say about Ukraine's position?
Well, they highlight the fact that Ukraine is becoming increasingly reliant on European support.
Right. Well, they have to be.
Both militarily and economically.
Yeah.
And this dependence on Europe, it could actually give European nations more leverage.
Oh, interesting.
In shaping the future of Ukraine.
Okay.
Potentially even influencing the terms of any eventual peace agreement.
Wow.
So a lot of power dynamics at play here.
So just to recap, the U.S. and Ukraine at odds.
Yep.
Europe stepping up.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of uncertainty about what happens next.
Yeah, recipe for potential chaos.
It really sounds like it.
But, it's also possible
that
this reshuffling of alliances could lead to a more stable Europe in the long run.
I like that. Okay, I'm trying to be optimistic here.
We got to have some hope.
So let's unpack this further. What are some of the potential scenarios that could unfold from here?
Well, one scenario is that Europe, they fail to follow through on their promises.
Oh, okay.
Those pledges of increased defense spending, military aid, it could all fall by the wayside.
Oh, that's a bleak thought.
It is. It leaves Ukraine vulnerable
Right.
and potentially emboldens Russia.
So what's the opposite of that? What's the other side of the coin?
Well, that's where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
What if Europe actually steps up and becomes this independent force in global security?
Okay, let's dive into that. That's a whole other conversation.
It is.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, so this scenario where Europe really steps up and becomes a major player in global security. I mean, it's a cool idea, but
it's fascinating.
It's a lot, right? Like how?
It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, what are the challenges?
Well, for starters, remember those promises?
About increased defense spending.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's going to require some very, very difficult decisions about resources. We're talking potential tax hikes, cutting spending in other areas.
Yeah.
And you know what that means.
Yeah, that means my wallet hurts.
Well, yeah, potentially,
Yeah.
Impact on economies, your investments, prices of goods.
It all trickles down.
It does. It does.
Right, okay, so that's the money side of things.
Right.
But what about the actual practical part?
The logistics.
Yeah, of building up a stronger European defense force.
So where do they even start?
Yeah, where do they start?
I mean, for one thing, they're going to have to figure out how to coordinate all of their militaries.
Right, that's got to be tough.
Yeah, that means standardizing equipment, figuring out joint strategies, potentially a unified command structure.
That's a lot.
Huge logistical challenge.
And that's assuming everyone agrees, right?
Well, yeah, and that's another challenge altogether.
Yeah.
I mean, not every European nation is going to be thrilled about this whole more assertive stance.
Right. Some are going to be more hesitant.
Absolutely. Some are going to worry about provoking Russia.
Yeah.
Some won't want to commit the resources to a big military buildup.
So even if they overcome all the money problems and the logistics, this whole thing could fall apart because they can't agree.
It's possible. Internal disagreements could unravel the whole coalition of the willing.
Right. Okay, but let's just say they figure it all out.
Okay, hypothetically.
Yeah, Europe becomes this unified force.
Yeah.
They invest in defense. Their militaries are all on the same page. And they're, showing the world that they're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
How would Russia likely respond to that?
Well, there are a couple possibilities.
Okay.
The best case scenario, Russia backs down.
Oh, okay.
They realize that a united Europe is a credible threat.
They don't want that smoke.
They don't want the smoke now.
Okay, but what if Putin sees it as a provocation?
That's the other possibility.
Yeah.
He could feel like Europe's trying to box him in.
Push him into a corner.
Exactly. And I don't see that ending well.
No.
A more assertive Europe could be a direct challenge to Russia's sphere of influence.
Right.
And, Putin, he might respond with more military activity.
Oh, yeah.
Cyber attacks, maybe even try to destabilize some European governments.
So much for a more stable Europe.
It's a complex situation.
Okay. Take a deep breath.
Deep breath.
We've talked about the economic impact, logistical challenges, political risks, provoking Russia.
It's a lot.
Is there anything to be optimistic about in this whole scenario?
Well, there is one upside we haven't really talked about yet.
Okay, I need some good news.
Remember that post-war security framework for Ukraine?
The one the European leaders were talking about?
Yeah, that one. If they can actually implement that, it could be a huge deterrent
against Russia.
Against future Russian aggression,
So what would that look like?
I mean, it's too early to say what the details would be, but it would probably involve a few things.
Like what?
Continued military aid to Ukraine, definitely.
Okay.
Training for Ukrainian forces, got to be ready. Intelligence sharing, that's key.
Yeah.
Joint military exercises, always good.
Right.
And then, maybe some security guarantees.
Like what?
Or maybe rapid response mechanisms, something like that.
So they're basically creating a tripwire.
Yeah, like any Russian aggression against Ukraine.
Sure.
Boom, immediate response from Europe.
And that's the point, right?
Right. It raises the stakes for Russia.
Yeah.
Makes it clear that an attack on Ukraine would have serious consequences.
Okay, so that's reassuring, at least on paper.
In theory, yeah.
But let's go back to our Korean source for a second.
Okay.
How are they viewing this whole potential shift in European security?
Well, they're pointing out that this could have implications beyond Europe.
Oh, interesting.
The more assertive Europe, it could change the global balance of power. New alliances, new partnerships, who knows?
We're seeing this as a global event.
Yeah, not just regional.
What else are they saying?
They're saying a stronger Europe could be good for countries like South Korea.
Okay.
They're looking for ways to diversify their security relationships.
Makes sense.
And they're suggesting that a more independent Europe could be a counterweight to China.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't even think about that.
A whole new set of power dynamics.
So they're kind of seeing this as a win-win.
Potentially, yeah. A more secure Europe, a more stable global order.
Okay.
But they're also saying, watch out.
For what?
A more assertive Europe could also create new tensions.
Right.
New rivalries, especially if other powers feel like Europe's stepping on their toes. So benefits and risks.
Always.
Complex situation.
Extremely complex.
And that's what makes it so interesting, right?
Exactly. I mean, we could be witnessing a turning point in history.
Yeah.
And the outcome, who knows? But that's why we're doing this, right?
Yeah. That's why it's so important to understand all these forces at play.
All these potential consequences.
Exactly.
Now, before we wrap up this part,
I
want to circle back to something you said earlier.
Okay.
About this potential for a more assertive Europe to backfire and actually provoke Russia.
Oh, yeah.
That's a scary thought, right?
It's a very real risk.
Yeah.
You have to understand the nuances.
Let's dive into those nuances.
Get to it.
All right. So this idea that a more assertive Europe could actually provoke Russia.
It's a scary thought. It really is.
Especially when you're talking about, nuclear powers.
Oh, absolutely. A concern we need to take seriously.
So how do we even begin to think about that?
Well, you got to see things from Russia's perspective. They see these neighboring countries as their buffer zone, essential for their security. That's their thinking.
Right.
So if Europe starts getting more involved in that zone, more military presence.
Yeah.
Especially if they're seen as supporting countries that Russia sees as hostile. That's a direct threat in their eyes.
And it's not just about the military stuff, right?
Right, bigger than that.
It's about values, like a more...
Ideology?
Yeah, like a more united and democratic Europe right on Russia's doorstep.
That's a huge challenge to Putin's regime.
It undermines his whole thing.
Exactly. Remember, Putin's been framing this whole conflict in Ukraine as this clash between Russia and the West.
Right.
It's a battle against, what he sees as like decadent liberal values.
Right.
So a stronger Europe promoting those values.
Yeah.
It just plays into that narrative, makes them feel even more threatened.
Oh, wow. So this isn't just like...
geopolitics.
Yeah, like a chess game.
It's a battle of ideas.
It's a tug of war for influence.
Exactly. And Ukraine's stuck in the middle.
Right in the middle of this.
Ukraine becomes a symbol.
Wow.
A battleground for this larger conflict.
That's heavy.
It is. The stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah, and it makes you realize, like...
What?
How careful we have to be.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, a misstep...
A miscalculation.
Could be devastating.
Absolutely. And there's a reason they talk about the fog of war.
The fog of war, yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to misinterpret things.
Misunderstand,
yeah. And that can lead to escalation.
And when you have nuclear weapons involved...
Oh, man. The consequences of escalation don't even bear thinking about.
So how do we avoid that?
Well, you have to acknowledge the fog, right? You have to be aware of it.
Okay.
So what are some scenarios where things could go wrong?
Yeah, like, give me an example.
So imagine Russia sees a European military exercise near their border.
Okay.
And they think it's a preparation for an attack.
Oh, wow.
Or what if there's a cyber attack?
Yeah.
Maybe it's from some, non-state actor, but they think it's Europe, and then they retaliate.
Okay, so misinterpreting things, jumping to conclusions.
Exactly. Things can spiral out of control so quickly.
And that can happen even with good intentions.
Even with the best intentions.
Wow, it's a sobering thought.
It is, but it's important to acknowledge those risks.
Yeah, because even with this coalition of the willing, things can go bad.
Things can absolutely go wrong.
So what's the solution? Like, how do we prevent this?
Well, diplomacy is crucial, right?
Yeah.
Clear communication, willingness to de-escalate, that's key.
So it's not about, like, backing down from what we believe in.
No, not at all.
But being smart.
It's about managing risk.
Yeah, reducing those chances of a really bad mistake.
Exactly.
Okay, so bringing this back to our listener.
Yeah.
What can we do as individuals?
I mean, it feels so big, right? Like, how can we affect something like this?
It feels overwhelming.
It does, but I truly believe that everyone has a role to play.
Okay, I'm listening.
First and foremost, stay informed.
Yeah.
Seek out diverse perspectives. Like, we've been talking about this Korean news source. Yeah. Don't just stick to your usual sources.
Get out of that echo chamber.
Get out of the echo chamber, yeah.
Okay, so stay informed. What else?
Engage in thoughtful dialogue.
Meaning?
Talk to people who see things differently than you do.
Oh.
Challenge your own assumptions.
Right.
Support organizations that are promoting peace, diplomacy, all that good stuff.
I like that. Even small things can make a difference.
Every little bit helps.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we're not just watching this happen.
Right. We can be part of it.
We can actually do something.
We can be agents of change, even if it's just in our own little corner of the world.
I love that.
And that's what gives me hope, honestly.
Okay.
Despite all the challenges, all the risks,
yeah,
I believe that there are people out there who are working for peace.
People who want a better world.
People who want to build bridges, not walls.
That's a beautiful thought.
It is.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's leave our listener with that call to action.
Okay.
Stay informed, engage in dialogue, and be an active participant in building a more peaceful world.
It's a journey, not a destination.
Love that.
But every step we take in the right direction, it matters.
Absolutely. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and never lose hope.
Never lose hope.